Happy to see you guys and those of you watching online as well. We're going to do a few things tonight. We're going to be discussing, continuing to discuss depression, the benefits of good salt in your diet, and then also we're going to have a piece about weight loss tonight as well, if time goes as we hope it will. Because on paper, it appears that we can get it all in, but we'll see what happens. So, announcements, I don't have a lot, but we will let you know exactly what we're going to be doing next month soon. But tonight, we will not have our vendor tonight. Deborah Roth will be coming every other month, just to remind you of that. So she will be back next month in July, and then thereafter every other month. And then in the bookstore, though, we still have the grass-fed beefsteak cuts. So they are there waiting for you. So if you're interested, go into the bookstore after and make your purchases. I'm going to start out reading something, then we're going to do a little bit of review from last month. So some of you may have already heard this. If you were in service, when was the last time we read? A couple Sundays ago, I believe, and Wednesday. But this is an excerpt out of Charles Capp's book, and we have said the scripture in here many times, Proverbs 18:21, that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And, we hear it, and then we're reminded of it, and then we, put forth effort to be consistent in what we're saying and not saying, but then we let it slip again. But this is just a little bit of a different side to it. Same thing, it's just, I think you've never heard this before if you haven't heard it, and it's good. So listen to this. It says, even those in medical science have found that Proverbs 18:21 is to be true. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Recently, I heard of a doctor who told of a situation that occurred in his practice. When he told one of his patients that she must have an operation, this was her response: if you operate on me, I'll die. This is what she believed, so that's why she said it, right? Because of that, he would not perform the needed surgery. He dismissed her from the hospital. Later on, a young colleague approached the doctor and said, I heard that you dismissed that patient and who said you must have an operation. Why? The doctor said, I wouldn't touch her because she was speaking things that would bring death. That doctor was aware of the power of words. And I wish all doctors, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? It would just be a totally different medical system if that was the case. Now check this out. I don't know who this is, but there is a neurosurgeon in Wisconsin who treats people with word therapy. He has patients do what he calls mental exercises for 15 minutes a day. This is instead of prescribing something that's going to not respond right in your body in the end and do more harm than good, this is what he prescribes. For example, someone with high blood pressure says, for 15 minutes a day, my blood pressure is 120/80. The doctor said whether or not the patient understands what he is saying makes no difference. His body will know and obey him. A person with sugar diabetes says for 15 minutes a day, my pancreas secretes sufficient insulin for this body. The neurosurgeon stated that the patient does not have to know what his pancreas is or does. His body knows and will obey his voice. He said, I don't know why it works, but it does. This is why Mark 11:23. It has taken medical science 2,000 years to find out what Jesus knew, what he was talking about. The doctor gave an illustration of a hopeless case, a lady who had terminal cancer. The doctors had done all they could for her. She had been in terrible pain, but after 3 weeks of word therapy, all the pain left her body. 3 months later, x-rays showed no signs of cancer. She was totally healed. And you know why, though? I mean, because she wasn't receiving it. She wasn't saying, like, okay, take over me. No, she was saying, nope, this. I'm going to tell my body this is the case, no cancer. So we need to be active. What's going on in our body, right? This is not mind over matter. It is God's word over all matter. God told Adam to have dominion, and that dominion was through his words. Confess daily that every disease, germ, and virus that touches my body will die instantly. So say this after me. Say, every disease, every germ, and every virus that touches my body, or anyone in my family's body, dies instantly. In Jesus' name. Amen. Some people say, you must think you're God just because you will not bow to all the circumstances of life. But Jesus said, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you might say unto the sycamore tree, be thou plucked up by the root, and be thou planted in the sea, and it should obey you. Words created your body. Words created everything. Jesus said the sycamore tree would obey you. The sycamore tree isn't smarter than your body. It is an inanimate object. It will obey you. Circumstances will obey you. Words will affect your body. They will cause you to be healed or to remain sick. Medical science discovered years ago that about 70% of all sickness comes from what people say. 70%. That's well over 50%. Just about what people say or what they believe, right? What they say or do. Many sicknesses are spiritual. For example, getting into strife or harboring unforgiveness are spiritual problems, but they can cause physical problems. And we know this to be true. I told this testimony a long time ago, or testimony story, when I worked at a job a while ago. I'll be a little more vague tonight, but there was twin sisters, and they were, I'm just going to guess, I don't honestly know how old they were, but they were in their 40s for sure, and twins. I mean, they looked identical, except for the fact that I knew a situation that had happened to the sister that worked with me first. First, this one sister worked with me, and then actually she moved on to a better job, and so then later on, ironically, her twin sister ended up coming to work with me too. So that's how I knew them both, I saw them both, and I knew both of their personalities. And the sister that worked with me first, she had been harboring bitterness and offense about a situation that had happened years before that, and you could see it. She looked aged, and her sister, who also had a similar event happen to her, didn't take it that way, and she had life in her face, she had a pep in her step. They were twins, but the opposite. So I just remember that so clearly, what holding on to offensive bitterness and unforgiveness can do. So it does affect your physical body. All right, can we bring up those PowerPoints? We're going to start to incorporate a little bit more of this, but this is just a brief one tonight. But I'm just going to quickly recap what we talked about last month. We talked about steps to deal with depression, and that was from the pharmacist Ben Fuchs on the Bright Side, his radio broadcast. And then we talked about a lot of different things, but the other thing we're going to recap is about no more salt, no more salt. You need more salt, from Dr. Wallach on YouTube. So let's see. Can we pull? Well, we can pull it down. That's cool. Okay, so you need more salt. Salt helps create proper digestion environment. It keeps heartburn and acid reflux at bay. 80 out of 100 people in 2009 study had gluten intolerance due to a lack of stomach acids. Restricting salt does not increase high blood pressure. But doctors tell you that every day, right? And to ensure proper electrolyte levels, you want to take in more salt. And you remember that in 1995, year I graduated. So I don't remember this. I was like too cool to remember this. But in Chicago, there was a heat wave, and actually Kim talked about this on Sunday. She recalls it being around here as well. But 750 people died, and they're all elderly people who are on salt-restricted diets. And there was 1,000 people who got heat stroke. They were taken by ambulance. What did they give them? Salt water. So come on, like, what are we missing here? Something's just not right. Well, we know what's going on, but it's ridiculous. So we definitely want to be getting more salt. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. And then the piece of depression. Just really quick. I have step 1 through 5 here, and this is on the website, so you can look at it more in detail. But what Ben Fuchs is talking about is he first said you need to notice the voice inside your head. Instead of running to the doctor and saying, give me what you got for this depression that I feel I have, you need to recognize that there are thoughts that come to your mind that seem really convincing and true, but they are not. They are not. And then the next one is slow down a little bit. Remember, he talked about breathing. When you slow down and you slow down your breaths, your brain waves slow down, and that causes you to relax, and it causes you to be able to think clearly. And he gave the acronym, which I've heard from other sources before, FEAR, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. And so that's a good reminder for all of us, because things feel so real, but they're a lie, right? So depression is under that category. It seems like there isn't any end to this, but that's not the truth. And then number 3, we have, and we'll get to this in a second, but avoid the things that play a role in depression. So as we have up here, you want to, well, let's see, what you don't want is you don't want low levels of vitamin B. So we're talking about get a good B complex, a good multivitamin like the Beyond Tangy drink that's got everything in it that you need. And then the essential fatty acids are key. We're going to talk about that, cholesterol and what that has to do with the brain in a little bit. Extra niacin, 1 to 200 milligrams. Extra vitamin C, which there is a large amount already in the Beyond Tangerine drink. And then other things you can take. I remember seeing John's wort from 15, 20 years ago was super popular. Everybody was coming in to get St. John's wort. Never tried it, but I don't know, some people said it worked for them, so there's herbal ways to go. So, but you want to stay away from the sugary, high-processed foods, and we know that, right? Eating the GMO foods. You know, we look for those things that say, like, non-GMO now because there's just so much garbage in the GMO food. They're just doing weird things to food and calling it food, and it shouldn't be food. And then any kind of depression drug is a suppressant. So I don't know chemically how it works exactly, but it may appear to be doing something fun for you for a while, but it's going to turn and it's going to cause you to go back down instead of stay up. It's not the answer. If it was the answer, it'd be the answer. We know it's not. So, and then number 5, the most important step is that we want to look to Jesus, because if we don't have him, all these things will last for a while, but they will not last forever. He's the only thing that will last forever. We need to know him as our Lord and Savior. And he is the healer. He's the original healer, and he is the healer until the ends of the earth. So we want to call on him and ask him to be involved in healing us of whatever is causing the depression. And so, all right, let me see here. We're going to go right into, was there anything else? Was that? Okay. We're going to go right into talking about depression here. And there is, maybe some of you have heard of this, it's called HealthQuestPodcast.com, and it's a radio broadcast with, I'll just be safe on the safe side and say hundreds of topics. You can pull them up and listen to them. You can replay their broadcasts. Again, it is HealthQuestPodcast.com. And if you need to know that again, ask me after class. And so this is just a little piece of, they had somebody on there talking about natural therapies for depression and anxiety, because anytime you see depression, usually anxiety is with it. It's tied in, and the root cause is usually affects you with both of those things. So, so this was an interview with, you can write this guy's name down if you want. It was Ross, R-O-S-S, Pelton, P-E-L-T-O-N. And again, pull this up because it's an hour long. So if you want to listen to it in depth, you can. But it says if you have depression or anxiety, listen to this interview. So it would be good to listen. It says it is now estimated that 11% of Americans are taking antidepressants. Says over 30 million people. 11% doesn't sound large, but 30 million people sounds really large. And millions more are taking another drug I can't pronounce, but it's for anxiety. And these drugs have serious side effects, are very addictive, and are in most cases are the inappropriate therapy for the person's situation. So they're just misdiagnosed. You know, the doctors aren't educated, well-rounded in education, so they just give what seems right to them. In 2008, an investigative report was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which shockingly revealed that the FDA and pharmaceutical companies lied to physicians. Okay, so they're not all guilty. Some of them are not aware. They're just robotically doing what they think is right. Lied to physicians and the general public by overstating the benefits and minimizing or ignoring side effects of these antidepressant drugs. So between 1987 and 2004, 17 years, there was 74 clinical trials on antidepressant drugs registered by the FDA. It turns out that 49% of these trials, so just about half, or a little under half, had negative outcomes, and a large percentage of these negative trials were not published. They were hidden, so that physicians and general public would not be aware of them. Even more disturbing was a revelation that some antidepressant drug trials that had negative results were published in a way that spun their outcomes to appear positive. So they're being super deceptive. So the bottom line is that you really want to look into, if you're on it, or if you're, and I'm speaking to everybody, whoever is listening now and in the future, if you're on it or you're considering getting on it, okay, go to the doctor and ask questions, but do research on your own, because they're not going to tell you everything that you need to hear before you make your final decision. And if you do want to be free from it, and you want to get off of it realizing it's not helping you, you don't like how you feel on it or whatever, we're going to talk about that right now. One of the main things that that we're told is low fat, low fat, low fat, right? And that's been going on for a while. And then low sugar or no sugar, which, okay, that's good, but not when it says it on the label and you think, oh, there's no sugar in this, or it's low in sugar. But then you look and it's not white sugar, it's some kind of chemical, worse process than the white sugar, and it just is a different name, and they can stick it in there and make it sweet still so you like it. Your taste buds are happy, but it's doing more harm than good because it's chemically made. So we're talking about low fat here, and the article, and then we're going to watch a gentleman talk in a minute, is your low fat diet making you depressed and anxious? Fat makes me happy, he said. If you have noticed, the low-fat era has not only coincided with a tremendous surge in obesity and diabetes, but also depression, anxiety, and addiction. Seldom do we consider that the root cause of our mood issues is literally on our plates or not on our plates. He says, I'm just going to skip because he kind of reiterates some of the stuff that I'm going to say here, but although we have no written or eyewitness accounts of the mental and emotional state of a caveman and woman, we can look at the works of Weston A. Price and Stephenson, PhD, to draw some conclusions as the role of diet in mental health. So these guys were explorers. Most of us know about Weston A. Price and what he did. And they studied different cultures and the Eskimos and people like that. And they were known, the Eskimos were known as the happiest people in the world, okay? And they are getting sun half the year and darkness the other half, and they are like cold all the time. We are not always so happy in the winter in Wisconsin, so why are they so happy? Why are they known as the happiest people in the world? Not only were they happy, but they were also extremely healthy, free from cancer, heart disease, and the diseases of other civilizations. The Eskimo diet consisted of 80% animal fat. So not like 3 or 10%, but 80%. In fact, they warned Stephenson of the dangers of eating lean meat. They said it would make him sick, just as it made us sick. As long as we believe that in order to be healthy and happy, we must do as healthy and happy people do, we need to look at what these people did. Weston A. Price found that the native people he studied and lived with consume 10 times more fat-soluble vitamins and 4 times more minerals than we consume. And this gentleman is going to say that again, but that's amazing. That's a lot more fat, 10 times more and 4 times more minerals, and we know the importance of minerals now more than we ever did before. These primitive people had no need for jail or mental institutions either. So, part of this issue, I bet you, and what do they feed them in jail? They're not helping them. They're not giving them any benefits of healthy food to help balance out any issues that they might have, I don't agree, necessarily in pleading insanity. When you commit a crime, I don't know. You choose to do it. But if you have a brain that's healthy and functioning, it may help you make better decisions. So regardless of how many self-help books you read, antidepressants we take, let me say that again. Regardless of how many self-help books we read, antidepressants we take, or talk therapy sessions we pay for, none will restore a nutritional deficiency. Isn't that the truth? So let's see. And then he says low cholesterol will not save you from heart disease, and it will certainly have a negative impact on your mood and brain function. I'm going to let you listen to him. This is just about 7 minutes. and he's going to talk really quickly before we start it, though. This gentleman, let me say where this is from, okay? Undergroundwellness.com. How I came about, I don't know. Like, I don't recall the steps to me getting to this guy, but undergroundwellness.com. And actually coming up, you can see it on the website, there's a podcast coming up. They're going to have this whole convention about depression, actually, and there's going to be like the best speakers from around the world talking about different things relating to depression. So you can watch it live, it's free. It starts on June 14. But also this gentleman speaks out of his knowledge because he was a bodybuilder for many years. Bodybuilders are known for eating lean, not taking in that fat, cutting out all the good stuff that you should be having, low salt, all that types of stuff. And also, so years of him doing that, he found himself depressed, and he didn't know what to do, and he was on an antidepressant for a year. And so he's going to briefly say that. Looking in more of the undergroundwellness.com, there is a whole article and him talking about what he went through and the symptoms that he had from taking this stuff. It really whacked him out a lot. So let's play that, and then we're going to watch that. And then we're going to watch the lady that was on his program, and that's just a couple minutes too, and then I'll come back up.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the show. Just got done finishing today's blog, and just wanted to share a story with you guys. Today's blog is about like depression and low-fat diets. And you know what I see when I speak with new clients during our initial consultation is, I ask them, what do you eat? And they'll tell me it's low fat this, it's low fat the other, it's 1% milk, it's lean like chicken breast and whatnot, and some salad on the side. Everything's low fat. It's protein, it's carbohydrates, it's too much grain, it's too much fruit. And I'll say to them, so how long have you been depressed for? And they'll go, how did you know I have depression issues? Because it's like literally screaming at me off of that piece of paper. It's screaming at me, from what they've told me about their diets. There's not enough fat in the diet. On Monday we talked about the whole, 99.99% of our genes were formed before the agricultural revolution, which was 10,000 years ago. And we talked about how dramatically and drastically our diets have changed and some of the repercussions of that. And one of the, a few of the repercussions are, cancers and heart disease and obesity, but very seldom do we ever take the time to think of the depression, anxiety, mental disorder, addiction issues that we have now. Let's look at the work of Weston Price. Let's look at the work of Stefanson. I can't say his first name, the guy who studied the Eskimos, but he said that the Eskimos were the happiest people on earth, and they had an 80% fat diet. They ate animals. Let's look at Dr. Weston Price. He said that the people whom he lived with and studied, these primitive people, they consume 10 times more fat-soluble vitamins than we do. In order to consume fat-soluble vitamins, you must consume fats. You must consume, for the most part, animals. He also said that they consumed 4 times more minerals than we do currently. And so we have to think about it from the extent or from the context of we have brains, and we need our brains to function properly. There are neurotransmitters and things in there. There's connections going on in there that are going to give us, or provide us with the mood that we have. If that's a proper way of saying it, but you guys get what I'm saying. Now, in order for those things to work properly, you have to have the bricks that build them. You have to have the constituents that are going to build them to allow them to function normally. But what a lot of people tend to forget is that 60% of our brains are made out of fat, that there's a lot of cholesterol in our brains. Okay, when we tend to want to get our cholesterol down to these little minuscule levels, people who have low cholesterol tend to have mood issues. They tend to be more violent people. They tend to have more suicidal behavior. Cholesterol is a very good thing. It's like we're trying to, stamp out heart disease while making everybody absolutely miserable. And the way that we're doing this doesn't stamp out heart disease, because that obviously is not working. We need saturated fat in our diets. We need cholesterol. We need vitamin A. We need vitamin D. You guys are familiar. We've done shows with Julia Ross. We've talked about the amino acids and proteins and whatnot, and the neurotransmitters that they make. Like, for example, serotonin, or I'm sorry, tryptophan is an amino acid. It's a protein, or part of a protein, that makes serotonin. And serotonin makes you nice and happy. Well, in order for that conversion to happen, you need a sufficient amount of vitamin D. Where does vitamin D come from? Well, yes, it comes from the sunlight, but most people don't really get outside very often anymore. And then, depends on which area of the world you're living in right now, whether or not there's enough sun to give you enough vitamin D. But vitamin D comes from animals. Okay, we need sufficient vitamin A. Vitamin A comes from animals. We need sufficient zinc in order to keep our zinc and copper ratio balanced, but zinc isn't really in that high supply in plants. And there's so many different things, but there's not enough protein in our diets. We eat the wrong proteins that don't have sufficient tryptophan or tyrosine and some of the other proteins or amino acids that build up our neurotransmitters. And so, what we really have to do is kind of just think about this. Think about the way that people used to eat and how happy they were and how healthy they were, and model them. I'll tell you quickly my experience with this. You guys know I used to do the whole low-fat diet with the chicken breast and the oatmeal and the basic bodybuilder personal trainer diet, and I was miserable. And I spent a year of my life on Paxil, and that's one of the reasons why I do this whole underground wellness thing, because I literally laid in bed, for many days just reading books, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with me. And I bumped into Weston Price and Paul Chek and Bill Walcott and Dr. McCullough and some of these other folks, and I learned, hey, saturated fat really isn't that bad for me. Because I used to be that guy who used to look at the labels on processed food that I thought was good for me, and if there was any saturated fat in it, I wouldn't buy it. If it had skin on it, I wouldn't need it. If there was a yolk in it, I wouldn't need it. You know what? I was absolutely miserable, and I had to resort to an antidepressant. I had to be on Paxil for a whole year. But when I found out, the truth about food and how it influences the mood, I started eating more saturated fat. I got over that fear of saturated fat. I think a lot of people out there need to get over theirs. And I started to feel a lot better. And I was able to go off of my Paxil. And I had a little bump on the road because I went vegan for a little while, or vegetarian, when I found out how poorly they treat animals. But I went right back into my thing, and I was ordering my Paxil again. But I figured, hey, there's got to be a better way than this. And so found out that there was like U.S. Wellness Meats. There's places where you can get actual real grass-fed, real meat. And I started to eat that, and it made me feel a whole lot better. And now here we are, free of depression, free of anxiety. Of course, I have my, my bad days just like everybody else does, but I do not have to resort to antidepressants. And most of us don't have to resort to antidepressants. We just aren't simply eating the foods that build our brain and give us the mood that we should have. And so that's pretty much it for today. Yesterday's show with Pam Killeen absolutely rocked. That was one of my favorite shows. I was a little bit off like the last couple of weeks in terms of my interview skills, but yesterday was bomb. Pick up her book. Where's her book? Addiction, The Hidden Epidemic by Pam Killeen. That's her right there. She was the bomb on the show. So check that out. We will see you on Monday. Hope you guys liked the recipe from yesterday. Out of here. Peace.
Our blueprint, our genetic blueprint, wasn't designed to be this miserable, to be this, unhappy population. And so, this is a huge problem, Sean. It's not, yes, in addiction, they need to acknowledge the importance of nutrition. But across society today, if you look around, you sound like a happy-go-lucky guy, Sean, but when I look around me, I see a lot of miserable people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's just not human. That's not being human.
There's a lot of miserable people who act like they're not miserable, but when you really talk to them, there's a lot of misery underneath them. You actually stole my next question. I was going to ask you about Price and Stefansson and Sir Robert McCarrison. Now, they visited people, Stefansson said that the Eskimos were like the happiest people he had ever met before, and they were on this super high-fat diet. Now, what were those diets? What was in those diets that we don't have in our diets? Let's start with the fats.
Well, really, I mean, we can almost start and end with the fats, but the protein goes along with the fat, of course. So it's the marriage of the substances together in the animal food that really help to support our nervous systems. And so, as you probably saw in the book, I have some images to show just how we're put together. And I talk about how to be structurally sound, you have to have certain ingredients in the cell membrane, things like cholesterol, right?
Ooh, cholesterol's bad. Bam, bad.
Yeah, really. I think your listeners all know the answer to that.
Right.
But there's some very predictable nutrients that we need in order to stabilize our biochemistry. And animal fats and cholesterol, of course, are some of the big guns, if you want to call them that. And of course, and here's one of the big, I think, myths that a lot of people think today is that we have increased our consumption of animal fat or red meat, or that we're eating more of these, terrible foods than we did, say, when we were healthier in the 1800s. And of course, that's just not true. And so what I do in my seminars anyway is I have some of this information in the book, but I show historical references to the 1800s, which shows that we ate huge amounts of red meat. We ate lots and lots of animal fat, animal protein in our diets as early as the 1800s. Things just really changed dramatically in the 1900s, and if you're interested, I can kind of explain why.
Please, go ahead, yeah.
Anyway, and Gary Taubes talked about this in his book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, and he said, at the turn of the last century, with the influx of all the immigrants into the United States, millions and millions of people showing up, that the cattle industry really couldn't keep up with the demand for meat. And so essentially what would have happened is they would have displaced meat and replaced it with things like wheat. And I say that, figuratively, because it basically is the displacement of the nutrient-dense animal food over eating the nutrient-poor plant-based foods. And that's the transition, really, that happened at the dawn of the last century. And we've been paying a huge price for it ever since.
Chat right at the end, she just said, that they weren't able to produce enough meat, and so then people started to consume more wheat, and we're eating too much plant-based and not enough animal-based foods. But then one other thing that they didn't mention, or maybe they do somewhere, but is that the way that animals are treated, the way that animals are fed these days, have went right down the tubes. So the good meat isn't it's available, but you can't just go to any grocery store usually and get really good meat. So you do have to be picky on some levels with that. But from my experience of being a vegetarian and then a vegan for a season, any meat I thought was better than no meat because of the way I felt. So that's key. So I hope you got something out of that. I thought that he just presented that piece that we need to remember to go and make some burgers, right? Good ones. What's that? Not charcoal black. No, we don't want to do that.
That is totally true. You do not want charcoal black because you want your meats raw, your red meats raw, and you don't want to fry your meats. Does anyone know? I have a trivia question for you. In the United States of America, who's the most long-lived region of the country? Is it California, the West, the South, the Midwest, or the Northeast? Midwest. You're right if you said Midwest. They said Dr. Wallach was showing that he had a map up of the United States, and he was showing the purple area was the Midwest, the most long-lived people, because they don't fry their food like in the South. The South was the shortest-lived people, and he said Midwest people tend to be from Scandinavia, and they typically roast their food. And roasting your food and cooking it medium rare will add on 25 years to your life, he said. So anyway, that was just a little trivia. We're going to go into right now is Dr. Wallach with Benny Hinn. And we've seen some of this before, but we're going to set it up. He's talking about salt again. And the initial part, he's talking with Benny Hinn about how the medical system became king, basically.
It has to be, or is it something else?
Well, it's basically tied to what you eat and what you don't eat. Again, why did God pick the Garden of Eden to put Adam? Unfortunately, the nutritional elements that we need to maximize our lifespan, to live to be 120 as God commanded, and man's years shall be 120, that means that's a command. They shall be. That wasn't say, well, if you do right, you'll get there. And so what we have to do is understand that the nutritional minerals that we require as a human being, as a vertebrate, like a hummingbird or a man or an elephant, do not occur in equal and the same amounts over the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like chocolate and chalk ripple ice cream. When you look at the top 20 longevity cultures, interestingly enough, they're very faithful people. These are all people of God who live the longest. And you assume either guidance or dumb luck, one or the other, probably a combination of dumb luck and guidance. They listened and they were guided to these places to live. They have everything they need to live to be 120. There's actually a cover article in the May 2013 National Geographic. It's a little girl, and it says, this girl will live to be 120. It just blows your mind because she happened to live in a place that has all the nutrients necessary to live to be 120. Now, her peoples didn't know that. They didn't analyze the soil, but they were guided by God to live there.
Okay, but how, I mean, you know, here we are living in big cities. We're not living in Eden or places like that girl is. How do we stay healthy? You see young people dying with cancer, diabetes, heart disease at young ages. I mean, that's shocking how many young people are suddenly getting these diseases that what it used to be that the older people got years ago.
Exactly.
Why?
Well, because they bet on the wrong horse.
What do you mean they bet on the wrong horse?
They bet on the wrong horse. They went with the medical system instead of God.
Keep talking, please. I want to hear that.
Instead of God. Because if we would listen to God, then we would be doing all the right things. We would be doing all the right things that our body needs. When we went with the medical system, that's when things began to become destroyed. Because the medical system went all with pharmaceuticals. And Pastor Benny, if you look at the PDR, the physician's desk reference, it has 250,000 prescription drugs in it, with the exception of antibiotics, which can kill pneumonia, can kill strep throat, can cure things. With the exception of antibiotics, there's not a single pharmaceutical in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, that cures anything. Doctors are not under any command to cure a disease even when there's cures available. So they choose to treat you. If they treat you for 25 years, they might make $750,000 per person. If they cure you, they make $300.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And there is no money in health.
There's no money in cure. There's no money in health. And so I'm interested in God's stuff. I call it God's stuff. And over the years, since I was 9 years old, and I know that God had to be part of this because a 9-year-old kid doesn't figure this out. And so when I figured it out when I was 9, it had to be a divine appointment. That's the only thing I can think of. And so over these years, I've treated it as such and learned everything I could, and I shared.
I mean, nutrition really works. Got all the fat out, just thought maybe that will help me. It didn't help me at all.
It could give you Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a physician-caused disease, yes, sir.
Wait, Doc.
Yes.
Alzheimer's is caused by doctors, not by diet?
No, it's physicians. Who told Americans to get on a cholesterol-restricted diet? Physicians. Who told doctors to take statin drugs to lower your cholesterol? Physicians. Well, I wrote a paper on that in 1971 and said, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. This is not correct. You're going to get all kinds of problems here. Well, what happened was people got Alzheimer's disease. They got low T, erectile dysfunction, because testosterone is a steroid hormone, 95% by weight cholesterol. So you go on a cholesterol-restricted diet, you take cholesterol-lowering drugs. Uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem here. Then they come up with Viagra and all this stuff, right? But essentially, all you had to do is eat 6 eggs a day, And
And they almost killed you on eggs. They said it's not good for you. Raises your cholesterol. The yellow is bad. Blah, 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 all that.
Pastor Benny, doctors only live to be 56 according to their own survey. Why would we listen to them? They say don't use salt. They live to be 56. God says use
You're
salt.
funny, dog. I'm telling
God
you.
says
Wow.
use salt, and God is forever. I'm going with God.
God said use salt, but
Yes.
salt is still bad for your
No, it's
body,
not.
isn't it?
No, it's not.
Well, a lot of it is.
No, it's not. No, it's not, sir.
Doc, I've
It's an
never had
essential
anyone
nutrient.
like you, but salt raises your blood.
No, sir, it doesn't.
What do you mean it doesn't?
It doesn't. That's a lie. That's why I say they bet on the wrong horse. The people bet on the wrong horse.
Are you telling me that salt does not raise your blood pressure?
That is correct, sir. It does not raise blood pressure.
Really?
Yes, sir.
What raises your blood pressure then?
It's actually a mineral deficiency or kidney failure, one or the other. 95% of the time it's a mineral deficiency, 5% of the time
How
it's
come
kidney
nobody says things that you say?
failure. Well,
I mean,
what makes me different?
I'm
That's a fair
hearing new
question.
stuff from you. You've helped millions of
Yes, sir.
people.
Now it just goes on from there, but I just wanted to capture that part about the salt because of course we've heard it, we know that salt is good for you, but I think it was good just to hear again that it is not related to high blood pressure. And we're going to hear another take on that one more time from Dr. Wallach.
Then there's this salt thing. You know, whether you believe it or not, this medical dogma has really caused a lot of problems in America. How many of you have ever heard that using a salt shaker is bad? You're going to get hypertension, right? You're going to get heart disease and stroke. What's the first thing a good farmer puts out for his livestock? A salt blocker, a salt lick, isn't it? There's nobody out in the pasture telling a cow she's limited to 1 lick a day. I refuse to believe that my human patients are dumber than a cow. Say, look, go ahead and pick up a salt shaker, and you're going to see that lightning won't strike you. You can go ahead and salt your food to taste, you can salt your body, nothing bad is going to happen. And 98% of my patients love it. They bring me hundreds of new patients every month who want to use salt and not feel guilty about it. And 2% of the bean counters, they say, now Wallach, we love you and respect you. We have this high-priced cardiologist that says you're flying in the face of all the weight of medical evidence. You can't tell people that they can use a salt shaker because you're going to kill them with high blood pressure and heart disease and stroke. And I've been vindicated in this belief. This was actually a study that was published in the New York Times, May 22nd, 1996. And this study was abstracted from JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, the most prestigious medical journal in the world, according to themselves. Now, in this particular journal, a Dr. Alexander Gordon Logan, who's an epidemiologist and cardiologist on the teaching staff of the medical school at the University of Toronto up in Canada, and he took 56 existing studies on hypertension or high blood pressure and restriction of salt, combined the data from these 56 studies, which included 3,505 people. He threw away all the conclusions and reevaluated the larger group. And what he found out was this: if you have normal blood pressure and you restrict salt, it will not prevent you from getting heart disease or high blood pressure. If you have hypertension or high blood pressure and you restrict salt, 97% of those with high blood pressure or hypertension who restrict salt will not get any measurable benefit. 97% will not get any measurable benefit. 0. 2 to 5% get measurable benefit, but it's not significant. They're only able to reduce their blood pressure by 3.7 millimeters of mercury. So here's what Dr. Alexander Gordon Logan said in JAMA, May 22nd, 1996. He said, you might as well go ahead and salt your food to taste. It's a meaningless exercise. Don't get paranoid about salt. It has nothing to do with blood pressure problems. There has never been one single iota of proof that restricting salt has any benefit. It's just one of those medical myths, he called it, but I'm going to call it a medical caca. Now, if it's not salt, what causes high blood pressure? Well, it's not salt, first of all, because salt is an essential nutrient. It has a combination of sodium and chloride, both of which you need. And according to the American Heart Association, the minimum daily requirement for a 150-pound person for salt each day is a heaping teaspoon, 6 to 9 grams of salt a day. Now, the Japanese who live longer than we do, the Japanese who live 4.1 years longer than we do and have half the cancer rate, they eat 12 grams of salt a day. They eat 3 times the salt we do. And they live 4 years longer, have half the cardiovascular disease rate, and half the cancer rate we do, and yet they eat 3 times as much salt as we do. So you're beginning to put the puzzle together that doctors really don't know what they're talking about. That's why dead doctors don't lie. Well, if it's not the salt, and if it's not genetic, What is it? Well, it's actually just a simple mineral deficiency.
So that is the part that we wanted to show from Dr. Wallach. Does anyone know what that one simple mineral deficiency is? From what he has said, and this is Dr. Wallach talking, he said it was 85% of the people have high blood pressure because they have a low calcium level. And he has, you can go into YouTube and look up Dr. Wallach high blood pressure if you want to, and he has that as well. There's other things also, Dixie, you probably know more on that, that is also related to high blood pressure, but that's one of the things he said causes high blood pressure. So.
Excuse me. And that's crazy. You know, milk, it does a body good. They show. Could you, someone hit the lights, please? And what is the milk that's sold in the stores? It's not even real calcium. It's not even real vitamin A or vitamin D or protein or anything, you know? It's calcium added. It's chemical calcium, yeah. So it's not being absorbed properly in the body. So people are getting their milk does a body good milk, and it's not doing them any good. They might as well just drink water, because it's not. But that was good. He's funny. He's a funny guy. But he's straight to the point. He's not going to beat around the bush. Continuing on with the salt. Actually, I'm up here. I'll just brief you. We're going to play something else in a second. We have a lot of little nuggets for you tonight. This was sent to us by one of the gentlemen that attend here, Mike Smith. And it was an article about alkalizing water that you drink. You know, a lot of the water, like obviously tap water, even distilled water, reverse osmosis water, and so on and so forth, it's acidic water. You know, it may not, like the reverse osmosis may not have all of the, you know, the chlorine and all the yucky stuff in it, so you're avoiding those things, but it's still not alkaline water. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But why alkaline water? Why salt in your water? Why would you do that? So we're going to watch this. It's just a couple minutes long. It's kind of fun to watch, and you're going to get a little bit better picture of why we want to drink salt water. Go ahead.
But wondering what it can do for you? Well, here's 10 reasons to drink ionized water every day. 1. Hydration. Research shows that drinking alkaline ionized water hydrates your body better than plain water. 2. Detoxification. Alkaline ionized water provides the body with a daily cleanse. Your kidneys will thank you, as ion trapping draws out acidic toxins. Your liver will say cheers, as increased levels of antioxidants promote blood cleansing. Your colon will feel the difference, and you will too. 3. Balanced body pH. Research shows that raising the pH of your urine by just 1 pH can prevent or eliminate the symptoms of metabolic syndrome, such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and kidney stones. A recent clinical study shows that alkaline water can fight harmful metabolic acidosis by raising blood pH 40 to 70% within the normal blood pH range. 4. Weight loss. Hydration allows you to have better workouts, so you're able to burn more calories. A recent study showed that people who started drinking alkaline water lost an average of 12 pounds in 2 months, and the only change they made was drinking alkaline water. 5. Anti-aging. Alkaline water triples the antioxidant strength of vitamin C, and alone it acts to counteract harmful reactive oxygen species, which damage DNA and tissues. Combined, alkaline water and vitamin C work effectively to neutralize harmful free radicals. 6. Heart health and blood pressure. Alkaline ionized water has been shown to reduce blood pressure and lower cholesterol levels in people with mineral deficiencies. 7. Liver health. Alkaline water has been shown to reduce oxidative stress in the body that affects the liver. Alkaline water has also been shown to increase levels of a critical antioxidant that protects the liver. 8. Bone health. Research shows a clear link between alkaline water and bone health. When your body's pH balance becomes acidic, your body will adjust it by stealing calcium from your bones. 9. Digestive health. Research suggests alkaline water reduces the symptoms of colitis, loose bowels, and constipation. 10. Sports performance. Feel more hydrated with greater endurance, faster recovery, and more energy. Want to know how alkaline water can help you? Call us now for more information and ask us about our 10 Reasons discount for alkaline water ionizers.
Okay, I wasn't trying to sell their product or anything, but I just thought that that was kind of an interesting way to put in perspective some of the things that it does for us. So I'm going to just get into that a little bit, and then we'll have a few more things and wrap it up. What time is it? Okay. Has anyone heard of Soleil? Soleil. Soleil. Okay. Neither had I. S-O-L-E, but it's pronounced Soleil. And it is basically a combination of crystallized salt and water, and you drink it on a daily basis. Oh, here, I didn't even grab it. This isn't like specifically Soleil, but I'll talk about what this is in a minute. Obviously, there's lemon in there. But it does matter, and it does make a difference how you drink your water. Like I've been, and it's still okay. Okay, we want to get salt in our diet. And so if we're not putting enough in our food, and sometimes I realize, too much salt just doesn't taste good, but I want more salt in my diet. I want more minerals and whatnot. I would just take a glass of water, put a bunch of salt in that, like a teaspoon or half teaspoon or whatever, and like chug it down, and it's not very pleasant to the taste buds just because it's over the top salty. So we're going to talk about what Soleil is, and then we're going to talk about this recipe here. And if you didn't try it already, you can try it. There's cups out there, and you can have more. But I got this information off of seasalthealth.com, all right? And it says when you wake up and get around, let me start over. Okay, when you wake up and get around in the morning, what's the first thing that you do? What's the first thing that a lot of us go reach for, I guess? Well, good job, half of you, okay, or all of you. Okay, well, some people go for coffee, okay? All right, yes, for most people, that's coffee. In fact, if you ask most people, what did you have for breakfast, they say coffee. I remember working at the mall, that is what people would have for breakfast. They would have coffee for breakfast, like a donut or something. A cup of coffee really does taste great in the morning, and it kickstarts the day, but is it really the first thing that you should drink? The first thing we should all drink in the morning is water, right. When we sleep, our body is repairing, digesting, and revitalizing us all night. This work requires much of the stored water we have and needs replenishing. It's one nice tall glass first thing in the morning, helps your metabolism get some life to it. Helps the metabolism going. But what if that glass of water could actually give you energy? It can. What is Soleil? Soleil, S-O-L-E, is a mixture of water and Himalayan salt. When mixed together, they create a solution that can be used for many things. The word Soleil comes from the Latin word sol, which means sun. When water combines with the crystal sea salt, the negative poles of the water surround the positive ions of the salt. When the negative ions in the salt are surrounded by they are surrounded by the positive particles of the water. This process changes the entire makeup of the molecule and forms a whole new element, and it's an energizing element. So just pouring salt in water and drinking it is not the same thing. This makes water not water, and the sea salt not sea salt anymore. The elements have liberated themselves from their restrictions, given up their polarities, and reached a higher form of energy. When the water gives up its own identity, the sea salt is separated from its crystal structure, which divides the sodium from the chloride. When both elements are in ionized state, they release their stored energy. The crystalline structure of the Soleil is so profound that its vibration pattern can last up to 24 hours in our bodies. This is why a daily morning drink can be so beneficial. Now, I'm going to give you a couple reasons of what it does, and if you want to look more into it in depth, You can check this book out, Water and Salt, The Essence of Life. This is by Dr. Barbara Hendel. You can take a look at this after if you'd like. These are some of the things that the Soleil does. It supplies the body with natural energy that can last up to 24 hours. It's effective in balancing irregular heartbeat. It harmonizes the alkaline and acidic balance in your body, and that normalizes your blood pressure. It dissolves and eliminates sediment deposits, which can lead to stones and various forms of arthritis, kidney, and gallbladder stones. Vital to making the structure of the bones firm. So it's really important, as we saw in that little sketch too, about the calcium, the alkaline water, helping with bone structure. Osteoporosis in many ways is a result of salt and water shortage in the body. Okay, because we thought it was milk, calcium, right? So we want to take more water and salt in for our bones. Helps to clean our lungs of sticky phlegm and excess mucus, as well as cleaning our sinuses. Soleil is vital in the nerve cells and the communication process of our cells. It helps with the absorption of food particles through the digestive tract. Drinking Soleil aids in the prevention of muscle cramps and helps with sleep regulation, which we know that you can drink salt before you go to bed. You could have some of this before you go to bed to help with your sleep, because sea salt is a natural hypnotic. I did not know that. It's also vital for maintaining sexuality and a healthy libido. And it's a natural antihistamine that helps you to breathe better, and much more. What was I going to add to that? Okay, I'll just go on. It sounds like a magic potion, but it's not hocus pocus. It's just pure elements coming together, and used correctly, this is what it produces. So this talks about how you can make Soleil, because it looks like Soul. Go on to this website. What did I say it was? Where'd it go? SeaSaltHealth.com, yes. And then you can find out how to make that. I'm going to give you a different recipe that varies slightly, but this one, the Soleil, specifically talks about using the Himalayan crystal salt, and as we all know, it's not some junk salt. This is good salt. That, like this, I actually put about 1.5 teaspoons of salt in this, and really you can't see much of it, so most of it dissolved overnight. But what they were saying in this, how do you make Soleil, is that when you, they don't talk about the lemon, but I like the lemon part of it because I like having lemon in the morning anyway, but is that you'll see that it starts to form crystals. The more salt you add to it, it'll start to actually form a crystal. And that crystal is the piece that really makes up the Soleil piece of it. And then you add that to water, and you only need just a little bit. It's almost like kind of like the colloidal silver. You don't drink a whole glass of colloidal silver. You just take small amounts of colloidal silver, right? So that's the idea behind the Soleil, is that you make it over time. It'll become really concentrated, and you'll only need a little bit of it. You won't be drinking a whole glass of it. Yes, you can look more into this on the website, because I'm going to skip to a different recipe. But yes, it sits out on the counter. As this person says, they like to display it because they think it looks cool. So.
Back in the day, from Linda.
Oops, I got to press it.
This is how she taught us to make the Soleil, to take the chunks of the Himalayan sea salt, which I still do today, and I have it in my counter, and then the chunks, I just put big chunks in the jar. It becomes saturated. When it becomes saturated, the chunks don't get smaller anymore.
Right.
They stop. And then I drink all that up. Do you know what I mean? But I only drink like a tablespoon a day, or if I'm tired or weary or whatever, or feel depressed, immediately when I put just not even a tablespoon in water, then it immediately perks me up and takes away those feelings. So I just figured it's salt most of the time. But then when it gets down to the bottom and I fill it up, then that Himalayan sea salt will only disappear to a certain extent. And when the water becomes saturated, it stops. Then you only need about a tablespoon or teaspoon of that. It depends on how bad or how good you are.
Okay, Christine has been on this. That's awesome.
A person just recently from Young Living said that her mother-in-law had major cancer and a bunch of other things that went wrong in her body. And instead of taking her to the hospital, she said, you probably just have a problem with pH and you're not detoxifying. She's like, well, honey, it's cancer, and I think I'm blah, 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 blah. So what she did is she had her take a cup every hour, on the hour, a cup of this that she made.
That's a lot, yep.
That's a lot. But within 3 hours, all the symptoms that she was having disappeared. And within several months of her using a few other things, but mostly the salt, the cancer started reducing. And they figured it was from a mineral deficiency and mostly salt and water that her body needed.
How simple, right?
Simple. Right?
Well, before I get to the recipe, what you just said goes along with this. There's a testimony on the website about the drinking Soleil every day. And this is what the lady says. She said, I've used your recipe for Soleil and have been drinking it for the past month and a half, and the results are incredible. Just to name a few, adult acne is the worst, she says. Within a week of drinking Soleil, my skin started to clear up. It has remained clear. I have more energy during the day, and I am not so tired towards the end of the day. Energy has been very consistent. I've noticed that my thighs and stomach are shrinking a little. My pants are not as tight around my thighs and midsection. Yay! Who doesn't want to lose a couple pounds or inches? Thank you for sharing this recipe. So it has a lot of benefits depending on what your body needs. It helps to regulate. So let me go on to this, okay? And then I'll wrap it up. We should have some time. Keisha, you let me know. How to make alkaline water at home. Okay, so we're talking about Soleil. It's slightly different than this, okay, just to clarify that, okay? But again, this information I'm giving you right now is from the same website. So when you pull it up and you go to that little spot that says search, put in sea salt, alkaline water, whatever, it's going to pull it up. So our body is, let's see, let me rewind. A majority of the population eats a mostly acidic diet, which causes a drop in our pH and weakens all of our body systems. If our body is acidic, it is a breeding place for disease. The pH of water will depend on what kind of water you're drinking. As I said, tap water is obviously not so good, but even reverse osmosis, it's all still acidic. All right, so if you look at a measuring scale, and you can go to any health food store usually and get like what are they called? The pH test strips, yeah. And then you can find out what your water is, and you can find out what you are, and what different foods are and stuff, your urine, you can test it out. But anything below a 7 is acidic, anything above 7 is alkaline, okay? And it'll show a color chart and stuff. With water making up almost 80% of our body, is important that the pH, it's just as important what our pH is. Our bodies have an acid-alkaline ratio that is a balance between positively charged ions, which is acid, and negatively charged ions, which is alkaline. The body will work to balance this ratio to a healthy range somewhere between 6.0 to 6.5 in the morning and 6.5 to 7 in the PM. If you have never tested it, it talks about, you can go and check it out. When you are acidic, the body will borrow minerals, we just saw that a little bit ago, from organs, tissues, and bones to balance you out. These minerals are robbing you from yourself to remove the acid from your body, putting a strain on your entire system. This can cause severe and prolonged damage if not treated or reacted by to you. So it says being acidic on a regular basis, this is what it can lead to: obesity, weight gain, and diabetes, immune deficiencies, premature aging, cardiovascular damage, constriction of blood vessels and oxygen reduction, joint pain and achy muscles, kidney and bladder stones, rapid free radical damage, possibly causing cancerous growth. We know that, like Christine just said, what happened to the lady that had the symptoms of cancer, it went away because her body was probably super acidic and she was lacking major minerals that she needed. She needed to get it back on the right side. And then chronic fatigue. If you find yourself in this state, then you need to take some action. So lastly, what is alkaline water? Drinking alkaline water helps the body to detoxify. Toxins are acids and maintain a balance. And to maintain a balanced pH while detoxifying, you need plenty of alkaline buffers. So I don't know if people every spring, summer, winter, whenever, certain times of the year go on some kind of a cleanse, but you want to make sure that you're getting alkaline water and stuff in your body at the same time to help with that. Alkaline water has plenty of these buffers to help rid your body of acidic waste. And then our blood actually enforces a balanced pH. If the water you drink is too acidic, the body is unable to flush out the acid waste from your cells and tissues. Your organs will deteriorate and disease will set in over time. So I'll just read this last part. Expensive brands of bottled water, we see them, they're all in pretty bottles, and we want them because we want the bottle and we think the water's good. It's usually not. They said Essentia is alkaline, but you don't know how long it's been sitting on the shelf for. So it can still harbor things in that water that we don't want to be taking in. So what do? Make your own. So this is the recipe for this. Again, try it after class. No. So this is how you make the alkaline water, all right? This is their recipe. Again, go to the website. You'll get the details. This is 6 cups, so I just made a smaller amount. So they call for 64 ounces, which is 8 cups. I just did 6 cups. And then it calls for 1 organic lemon. Make sure you wash it because you don't want to peel it. You want the peeling in there, so clean it off. And then cut it up, and you put, like they said, cut it into 8 slices and drop it in. I just put 6 in to kind of keep the ratio right. And then you add your water. You got your water in there. You put your water in there. You add your lemon, cut lemon. And then you put in 1.5 teaspoons of the Himalayan pink salt. And as you saw back there, we have the Premier. I put the Premier salt in here. That's what's in here. And what happens is, like I said, when I would just dump salt in a cup of water and drink it, I'll do it, but I don't like it. Just drinking lemon on its own, I like that, but now you can mix both, and I think it's pleasing. As I told a few people before class, my son, Noah, really likes lemons, just straight up, or lemon water, or whatever. And so I thought, well, this looks like fun. I thought, hey, do you want to try some of this? And he's like, no, Mom, I don't. I'm like, really? But it's got lemon in it. Like, I thought you'd be all over that. And for some reason, he just had this attitude about it. I'm like, okay. And then I thought I'd just pour a little bit in a glass and say, just try a little. If you don't like it, you don't have to have it. So I just poured a little bit in the cup, and he took a sip, and he goes, his face lit up. He's like, I'll drink the rest of it. And I mean, it's not that, it's not like sweet and, like lemonade or anything, but he liked it. So if a little kid that's 4 or 5 likes it, you'll like it too. So what you do is let it sit overnight then, okay? You can put it in the fridge if you like it cold. I don't like cold. I like things room temperature usually, so I just left mine out on the counter all night long, and then first thing in the morning, drink it. You'll see that the majority of the salt has disappeared. Well, I used reverse osmosis. That's what I fill up at the grocery store. They recommend do not do tap unless you have a filter system in your house. You know what kind of water is better. So, if you can get artesian water, what the best water, get the best water, but just do the best you can. And so then it says this is just going to become a routine. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and that's that. So try it after class. I'm going to start making it just in larger amounts. Because I would have been drinking it all day, but I wanted to save it for you guys to try. So I sacrificed, but yes. So enjoy that, yeah. No, you can look it up online. Yep.
Okay. We're going back to the good old days with Maker's Diet. So we're going back there. And I brought my magic bullet. So, with Dr. Wallach always talking about how we should get eggs, I went back to that smoothie recipe, that the first one that we all learned. I don't know. Can you? Am I good now? I have to be like, okay, anyway, I'm going to come right here for right now. No. That's too advanced technology. But anyway, so I just went back to one of, for weight loss in general. Breakfast is one of the most important things that you eat in the morning. So I just wanted to bring back to everyone's memory that first initial Maker's Diet smoothie we learned of putting 10 ounces of milk. And of course, we're not getting the raw milk at this point. So I use organic yogurt. Or certain times I've been using the Slender FX by Dr. Wallach. And that's what I have here. Yes, that would be great. So one of the things for me, I've been doing a lot of supplementing and getting my essential fatty acids in, but my son hasn't. So remember in Dr. Rubin's recipe, he said put flaxseed oil in. And of course, we know our flaxseed oil gives us the omega-3s. Now, I've been getting it, but my son doesn't take those capsules every day, and he doesn't want to take cod liver oil at this point. So when I'm making up my recipe, I, of course, now have been putting the tablespoon of flaxseed oil, melting my coconut oil down and putting a tablespoon of that in, and then putting in yogurt, or if I have to, certain times we're doing Slender FX, and Samuel does this too as well, and then I put in my banana. And I'm gonna just let you taste the Slender FX because I don't think anyone has tried it at this point. And then I put in 2 eggs. So if I'm making this would be 1 for Samuel, but if I make a bigger one, I put in 4 eggs, so I would get 2 eggs and he would get 2 eggs. So this is just one of those things to go back to getting the good eggs in your body and the good fats in your body. And we know, as Amy was sharing with us, how that helps out with depression, and the eggs help out with the good cholesterol, getting the good cholesterol in. Because for me, that was one of my challenges. Whenever I go in, they'd be like, oh, your cholesterol's so low. What are you doing? I want to know. The doctors would be like, well, what are you doing? I want to know what you're doing, because they were giving me compliments how low my cholesterol was. And now that I know all this stuff, I'm like trying to get those good eggs in. But yeah, even with this right here, this protein drink right here, I always put in 2 eggs because I want Samuel to get in the eggs. And Dr. Wallach was saying even we can eat as many as 6 eggs, so having 2 extra eggs in is a good thing for us as well. So yeah, I just wanted to show that. And I can make this afterwards. Because I don't know. Well, I can just scoop it really quickly. I use 2 scoops typically. It says that's when I'm making a bigger amount. I probably use 1 scoop in here, but it actually says use 2 scoops for 1 cup. But I don't do that just because it's kind of overpowering to me. So, and I'll just quickly, since I'm up here. And I just put in the banana just because it sweetens it up, and Samuel and my son likes it. And do I have time to do this? Okay. I don't do anything fancy. I typically do have a tablespoon. My husband does it, and he just pours it in like that. And I get mad at him because I'm like, I don't know how much you put in, and I want to know exactly how much is in there. And I don't see the scooper. It is a new one. Okay. This is a protein drink, but again, if I use eggs still certain times. Okay, I'm not going to use all of this, but I just want you to get a flavor for how that. You use goat whey? Where do you get that at? Nutrition Store by Woodman's. You can get goat. I like that. Okay. And I'm going to just put it on the bullet really quickly. I don't have eggs. I didn't know if everyone wanted the eggs in there, because I see Mary already looking like. Now, this is not dark enough. I can say I didn't put in enough because it's not dark enough. But I will let you guys try it afterwards. But just remember, another good way to get in your good fats, your good cholesterol from the eggs, and your protein in general. And I know for Kim, who's lost a lot of weight, she does whey drinks faithfully for breakfast. And I do it for me and my son faithfully, one, because I don't want him to have cereal for breakfast. So in the wintertime, he even likes this, which I'm surprised, but it works. So. I have a question. If you're allergic to eggs, can you just add more of the flaxseed then? That would give you more of a, or do you have to be careful? You don't have to add eggs in this. The proteins, you can get protein from the whey. I don't know about the powdered eggs. Yeah, but I know this has whey in it. So Dr. Wallach made this, it has the protein in it. But I'm just getting extra protein because I know he said you should be at least 6 eggs a day. And that just gives me extra. And it makes me feel full till 12 o'clock, and I'm not snacking in the morning time. Now, there are other times I do snack, but so I just wanted to show you guys that. And that was it. Oops, I meant to put more in, but I'll do that after.
I want to try that. I like chocolate anyway, so. Awesome, thank you, Keisha. I know that we used to have smoothies every morning, and then it phased out. So we need to do it again. So that encourages me to do that because the kids will like that. We're done, but before we are dismissed, we need to pick a name. We've got a couple choices. If your name is picked, you can pick one of these powdered drinks from Youngevity. So I'm going to have Keisha, because your name's not in here, so neither's mine. So. And the winner is Mary Kozlowski. It was a different Mary, so you pick one of those. Congratulations. Yeah, they do. I've tried this, it's good. I haven't tried that, but I'm sure it's good too. Thanks, you guys, for coming tonight. Thanks, you guys, for watching. Hope you learned something. Check out the website. Later on, we'll have more information, and the ones that I gave tonight, you can go and check out more in depth what we talked about. And again, go in the bookstore. We've got the grass-fed meat. And question?
I just have a comment. I just have to tell you guys
Okay,
that
comment.
my husband is supposed to eat a high-fat, low-carb diet. And his PSA has gone from 11 to a 9 to a 7, now down to 6 because of this high-fat, low-carb diet.
Awesome.
No sugar, no grains, no root vegetables, no fruits except for berries. And the doctor told us to go to Trader Joe's and get these mozzarella balls. There's 2 in a container, and the middle is full of cream. Yes, and they are delicious. You can make the caprese salad out of it. You can slice it and then add the tomato slices and then a little Greek seasoning and then drizzle it with extra virgin first cold-pressed olive oil. He's supposed to eat fat, and the doctor told him that he lost 38 pounds in the last 3 months, and he eats 4 eggs a day.
Wow.
So
and he's in a good mood.
Yes, and yes, he is. He would love everybody, even stage 4 people, to come and see him because he has hope for them.
That's awesome.
Yes, he has hope.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you for
He
sharing that.
He was born to missionary parents in India. He's in Brookfield, Wisconsin. He's really close by. So if you have people down and out, just go visit him. It's called Brookfield Longevity. Talk about longevity. This is longevity.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Super cool. Yes, we like to hear those testimonies. It's working, right? So enjoy. Rely on Jesus for your direction, because you hear a lot of things. What do you need to do? Ask him for his help, and he'll show you. Have a good night.